Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Full10Yards NFL Podcast.
Hello there, welcome back. This is the Full10Yards NFL Podcast. As always, providing you American football with British commentary. I'm your host, Sam Moores, and today I have got a bumper episode for you. It will start with some news and reaction from Week 11 for the ages. So many storylines to talk about from last week. I've then got something different for you. I've got a nice little feature on flag football, which is one of the world's fastest growing sports, and obviously a sort of section off from American football that the NFL are putting so much money into. So I dive deeper into the future of flag football before looking ahead to the rest of Week 12 after previewing Thursday Night Football and picking all of this week's games with Olly Darcy, who's a regular guest on the podcast. So without further ado, let's get going. It's been a busy 7 days or so we're going to start with the news of the week. Because not only did the Chiefs lose their first game of the season, we also saw a controversial benching and a slightly less controversial GM firing, which we'll get to in a minute. We will start with the first two pieces of news because they just... Any journalist based in New York would be working overtime this week because so much has happened. Well, the first thing being that the former 6th overall pick, Daniel Jones, has not only been benched for the rest of the season, quarterback of course, by the New York Giants, he's been moved to 4th on their depth chart, behind Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock and Tim Boyle. He was taking snaps at safety in practice for scout team work today, which is just crazy. He did a whole speech as well saying goodbye and, thankful for this opportunity starting. It's actually quite sad, I have to say. It's a really interesting story. Obviously they were widely expected to move on from Jones in the off-season because, there is now in his contract. But now, the way this has gone down the last week, this is definitely the end for Daniel Jones in New York. He's now basically a non-factor in the organisation. He won't be active on game day or anything because the Giants, quite simply, do not want to pay his $23 million injury guarantee should he get injured in the final stretch. A lot to unpack. A guy who's started, 6 years? This is his 6th season as a starter in New York. It's a big reminder that the NFL is business first, then a sport. Hundreds of thousands of jerseys, how big New York is and how popular the Giants are as a fan base. Maybe millions of Daniel Jones jerseys have been sold. And and he's just he's treated like that. It is one of the strangest decisions I've seen for a while. The same regime with head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Shane. They've talked him up for years. They've paid him a 4-year, $160 million contract a year and a half ago. He didn't even make it through 2 seasons of that before being benched and being told basically we're moving on from you in the off season. I don't disagree with the merit of the benching. Don't get me wrong, he's not played well this year. It's probably his worst year, especially as he's been healthy for a lot of it. And he's not played well for the majority of the past 2 seasons. I understand not activating him because I don't think that I understand it. It's a business decision, but the way they've gone about, emphasising this as a business decision and the way that, the move's been made as it's developed the past week, I honestly don't think they've handled this very well at all. For everything I read, it has not gone down well in the Giants locker room. We're seeing players talk about it and saying, that's my guy, and I understand why Jones has been benched, but Carl, talk about hard. It's a cutthroat sport, I can tell you what. I also think it's strange that they're not going to Drew Lock because they gave him a $5 million contract to be their backup again. But when you look at it, that again also is a business decision. Tommy DeVito is going to be the starter, as I said earlier on. He did give them a spark, to be fair, for the games he played last year when Jones was hurt. And I mean, Brian Daboll's been saying it all week. But like the expected real reason that it will be DeVito over Locke, again, former player drafted in the top couple of rounds, years as starter in Denver, he's been about. It's because he has playing incentives written into his contract. So if he plays this year, a certain amount of snaps, then he could get extra money. And So I mean, it is an interesting strategy. You've not seen this kind of thing for a while in the NFL. Because this is this is tanking pretty much. I mean, had Brian Daboll and Joe Shane had they not been told they were coming back for this year by owner John Mara like they were a couple of weeks ago, will they still be doing this? Now they've got that job security, or so-called job security, that they're going to be here for next season, which I think is I can't lie, a bit of a joke with the way the Giants have been run the last couple of years. Would they still be doing this? I don't know. I'm not so sure they would be, if I'm being honest. Like, we'll see how the end of the season goes. If it works and they get the top three pick to get a quarterback, it'll be Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who are expected to be the top quarterbacks at the top of the draft. Brilliant. If they don't get that guy again for New York and they're in the same situation, I wonder if those guys do come back, because it's going to be more of the same. And they've been stuck in this rut pretty much since like the mid-teens. Since Eli started falling off a little bit, and they've been MS. They made the playoffs that 1 year where they weren't great. They did win a playoff game, but they've been a mess for almost like 8, 9, 10 years, pretty much. And this all started with the benching of Eli, and it's just completely unravelled. It's an interesting one, certainly. I mean, fair play to them for having the balls to do this. Benching him makes sense, but the way they've benched him, the way it's been, it just, for me, it's like I said, it's ballsy. So we'll see how that develops this season. Sticking in New York, we saw our second firing, or third if you sort of count Nathaniel Hackett, in the Jets organisation, as GM Joe Douglas now follows former head coach Robert Saleh out of the building. Again, this one compared to Jones wasn't really a surprise. If I'm being honest, I'm surprised he's lasted 5 drafts and 6 seasons as GM of the Jets, because he's had some major misses and miscues, and obviously the big one was Zach Wilson in 2021. The class before that, 2020, his first after the 2019 draft. Only one of those players is still with the team. That's Ashton Davis, the safety. The first 2 picks in that class, Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims, were disasters. And he's not had many other good classes. There's one class that was the sort of saving grace for his job, the 2022 class, where they found Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. They've all showed real talent whilst playing in this dumpster fire that has been the Jets organisation the last 14, 15 years since they reached the AFC Championship game. They've been some of the best players the Jets have had in that stretch. That's it. That class saved this job. Otherwise, they've had 5. One good draft class and 5. That's very bad. He's now gone because the Rodgers experiment has not worked. And I mean, I can't really disagree with the decision, because if you look at the Jets, so many resources have been put into this rebuild, and they are worse this year than they were last year without Aaron Rodgers. It's just an absolute mess in New York, I have to say. So I can't disagree with the decision. I mean, with Rodgers, it's not even that he's past it in his 40s now. He's still an average to above average quarterback. He's still had moments, but the issue is he is a distraction. The way they've catered to his every need, with the Hackett hiring, the alleged want of Saleh to be fired at 2 and 3 when they've lost a couple of bad teams, a couple of good teams, and they're certainly still in the playoff race. Then the Devontae Adams trade. I mean, and that was just this year. Last year we had all the guys that came over from the Packers. They didn't really have that much of an impact over the last. I think it was like 10 former Packers, I think, that went to the Jets over the last couple of years. I think it's just like, and the culture that we thought Robert Saleh had. After 2022 with Saleh and Douglas, they were hot, and that's why they went and made this move. They've just single-handedly, mostly Douglas and Rodgers, really, have single-handedly destroyed that. It's gone from, they had something after a strong training to a young draft class. The Jets looked like they were in a good direction for, going in the right direction for the first time in, almost a decade at that point. They went really aggressive and it has ruined everything. And obviously everyone has lost their jobs. The season is over at 3-8. Obviously it's their bye week this week, which is why Douglas has gone. It allows them to get in early and looking for their next GM over other teams, because teams don't normally fire GMs this early. It's normally a sort of Black Monday, January kind of job. And, that next guy has got some really big decisions to make, let's be real. And it starts with Rodgers. Should he want to play? He is contracted next year. I expect him to carry on playing. I can't see Aaron Rodgers wanting to go out like this, because this is not good at all, and it will ruin his legacy. That again has really started to be ruined in the last couple of years, because he's one of the greatest to ever play the game at quarterback, or in general. He's so talented, such a talented player. They can move on from him in the off season. I'm not sure if that's smart or not, because he's not completely washed. As I say, it's not like he's been terrible. But I'd lean towards clearing house, if I'm completely honest with you. That 2022 draft class is going to need paying in the next 18 months or so. Contracts are going to have to be given out to those players, because those players are cornerstones of your franchise. Aaron Rodgers is not. They're going to be the talk of the offseason again, because of what will happen with Rodgers, because of what will happen with everyone else that they've got to pay. There's so many guys they're going to have to choose to stick with or move on from. And they are either going to it's either going to be Rodgers or another quarterback. And again, teams that are looking for quarterbacks are always the talk of the town. So it's going to be another offseason of us talking non-stop about the Jets. But look, when you show us this, I mean, it's not really a surprise, is it? Because they fundamentally have been poorly run now for the last 10 or so years. And pretty much even before that, obviously, they've got the longest drought without a playoff visit. That's not going to happen this year, so it's going to go on until next year. And I mean, with so much uncertainty, can you say that's going to happen? It could be a few more years now for New York. Head coach, GM, Rodgers, so many questions, so many are going to be answered around February, March time. This team could look completely different. We don't know what they're going to look like. if we're complete, we don't. But I'm certainly looking forward to seeing this rebuild, because there are a lot of players on the team that I really do like, and it has been a shame to see them treated like this over the last 2 years or so. Okay, I'm just going to finish with a few thoughts on Week 11 before I go into talking at all things flag football. A couple of games I want to go over before that big feature. There's only one place to start: Bills, Chiefs. Bills have now won the last 4 regular season meetings against Kansas City after their 30-21 win last week. But the problem is with Buffalo, they can beat the Chiefs, but they can't beat them in the postseason. They are 0-3 in all of the postseason meetings under both these regimes, between Kansas City and Buffalo. But I mean, you can't deny this is a huge statement win for the Bills, because I've been saying it on the podcast the last couple of weeks. I've wondered, are they the same team in these big games that they were when they could beat Kansas City and go and play against Cincinnati when they were at their pomp? And because that Baltimore game, that Houston game, they were not the same Bills team. They really weren't. But they certainly turned up in this game. I mean, Josh Allen has certainly moved himself into the MVP conversation with that performance. No questions about that whatsoever. I've firmly been on the Lamar bandwagon, because again, he's won the last. He won the MVP last year. Obviously, he's won another one before, and this is the best Lamar Jackson we've seen. But this is probably the best Josh Allen we've seen as well. To be completely frank with you, at least, this is always this probably is the best Josh Allen we've seen in some aspects. I have to say that. I've been saying it's a 2-horse race all along. I still think it is. But last week, one struggled in Lamar, the other excelled in Allen, and now he is a favourite for the MVP in my opinion. I think, should he and the Bills not slip up the rest of the year, obviously they're pretty close to Kansas City now for the 1 seed. The MVP, we had this conversation last week. if the MVP is much more likely to be a 1 seed, if the Bills are the 1 seed, or at least a very, very close 2 seed, and neither Goff or Mahomes have an MVP season like they're gonna, looks like they're gonna have, Josh Allen will be an MVP the way it is going. And his MVP moment was that 26-yard touchdown to ice the game on 4th and 2. Like I went into I was cooking my lunch at the time, ready for uni on the Monday morning. I went into our sort of watch party, and I said to everyone watching, I was like, "That's Allen's MVP moment." That that is the kind of moment that we remembered for years, like the Lamar performance against San Francisco last year, for example, like the Lamar performance against the Dolphins last year that really secured the MVP when both teams were playing for deep seeding in at the top of the AFC playoff picture. That. Those 2 games of Lamar Jackson secured MVP. This game here is that kind of game this year for Allen that will secure him MVP. And we'll see. Should they not slip up, Josh Allen will be MVP, I think. Unless Lamar Jackson does something absolutely stupendous. We'll see. It could start with John going into LA and beating Jim Harbaugh on Monday night. The game as a whole, before I get into Lamar and the Ravens drop into the Steelers. Look, Buffalo deserved to win that game. They ran over 20 plays more than Kansas City. They also had over 100 yards in offense more as well. And as for the Chiefs, they have flaws, and we saw that. The offensive line, for example, that's the biggest flaw. Liam, it feels like he's a regular on the podcast. He's been on the podcast a lot this season. Liam Horsley. His Twitter at the moment is just saying, the Chiefs had this opportunity to go out and get a tackle and go get many other players at the trade deadline to really push. They were unbeaten at the time. Push for, another 1 seed, potentially another 3-peat Super Bowl, and they didn't take that opportunity, and now they may not even be the 1 seed, and without that, I think they're vulnerable. Yes, they'll win games. Yes, they'll win playoff games. I think they're very capable of doing that. They've done it before. They're the only team that knows how to do it because they've done it so many times before. I feel like I would more often than not pick them to beat, whether it's whoever they're going to play in the playoffs, whether it's Pittsburgh or Buffalo or Baltimore or Houston or whoever they play in the playoffs. I'll pick them because I know they've done it before. For the Steelers, for example, haven't won a playoff game in so long. If they play the Chiefs, I'm picking the Chiefs because they know how to do it. But they are vulnerable, and I can see them. Even though I pick them, I can see them losing it because it's going to require, like last year, some effort to get all the way to New Orleans and play that play and win that Super Bowl. Like last year, this time last year we did not see that coming, and then look at them, and now they're going for a 3-peat. Do I still think it is possible? Absolutely, because I feel like they're yet to find a gear yet. The offense, I feel like, could get a lot better, and their defense can cause problems to anyone. But what I would say is there are teams that can compete with them. Baltimore have been rebuilt, and we'll get to that now. And Buffalo, they've shown they can go toe to toe with them. They've beaten them 4 straight times in the regular season. At some point, the Buffalo should be able to beat Kansas City in the postseason. So, I'll probably say that Kansas City are big losers of the week because they show that they are vulnerable in games like that. Now, we'll go over to the Steelers taking over the lead of the AFC North now with their home win last weekend over the Ravens. They obviously played tonight. They're now the AFC North leaders after beating Baltimore at home in the early window on Sunday. Obviously, the first of 2 meetings between the 2 division rivals, and that win could prove crucial because it means the Steelers are now just 1 win away from making it 21 years without a losing season, which is an incredible stat. Again, 4th trip to the playoffs in 5 years, I believe. Some job from Mike Tomlin again, and this is the best Steelers team probably since Big Ben was good, like 2018, 2019 time. And even then he was hurt then, so this is probably the best Steelers team since about 2017, I'd say. They are properly dangerous. Their defense has always been good. The offense is now starting to hit a groove. The defense has history of shutting down Lamar. They did it again. I didn't think it would be the case with the way Baltimore have looked this season, but they hung in there. They won the game. The offense wasn't great. They had to rely on field goals, but they put together a series of better drives than Baltimore, who only made the red zone twice, and the Steelers got a game they deserved to win, coming down to the very final play, where Baltimore failed to tie the game on a 2-point conversion. With a competent offense, these Steelers are dangerous. For me, Mike Tomlin has to be favourite for Coach of the Year because he has done, as I mentioned just a minute ago, he has done some job. As for the Ravens, I think they are, again, I said it last week, they are pound for pound the best team in the league, I think. I feel like they are, when you put them there, 9 times out of 10, they will beat their opponent. And I think only the Ravens and the Lions are able to absolutely destroy an opponent. We've seen it many times from both of them this season. The problem with Baltimore is, unlike Detroit, they need to stop dropping games, especially in conference. It's done it the last couple of years now, and it does keep costing them. That's their 4th conference loss this year. Obviously, a chunk of them in division. There's a loss to the Chiefs as well. So there's absolutely no chance now that Baltimore are going to get a good seed in the AFC, unless they can catch up to Buffalo, because they did beat Buffalo. But this team has been built for the postseason, so we can't really compare it to other teams because this team is, they've been built to peak when Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson can just kill teams in the playoffs, which Lamar has not been able to do because of the way their offense has been. Should Derrick Henry and Lamar do what they've been sort of paid to do, and obviously in Henry's case brought in to do, none of this may matter, and I think that's why I'm holding off and saying I'm worried about the Ravens, because they can smash the hell out of teams. They smashed the hell out of playoff contending teams in Buffalo and Houston, but and obviously Denver as well. But they do have this game in them, which is why I can't fully trust them yet. On the other hand, I'm getting there in trusting the Chargers, which I can't lie. I never thought I'd say I'd get there. I'd be getting there talking about trusting the Los Angeles Chargers. But they are a different beast at the moment. They held on to beat the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Since their bye, they have been one of the best teams in football. Defense playing just as well as it has done all the rest of the year. The offense has completely flipped. It's now playing amazing, complementary football. Obviously, Justin Herbert is in the heart of that. He's right up there with Lamar and Burrow and Allen. The last 5 games for me, I think those 4 guys have been stupendously good. They really have. Herbert himself has been brilliant. 17 big-time throws, just 2 turnover-worthy plays since their bye week about 5 or 6 weeks ago. He had 4 big-time throws the entire season before that, and 7 turnover-worthy plays. So this offense, now they will run heavy at first, and now they're getting the play action in there. Lad McConkey's come on loads, and now the Chargers are looking really good. So fair play to them, but for me, who I want to talk about in this game, the Bengals, because you had them there. You came back from 3 scores down. You had them there to save your season. Put yourself in it, looking good. At least you've got a shot at making a run for the playoffs with only 6 losses. The Bengals were right there, coming back from 3 scores down. The Chargers very nearly charged it again, bottling a 3-score lead. How many times have we seen that? Neither team wanted to win the game since it came up, and the Chargers dug in, and Herbert, who has struggled in late and fourth quarters and big moments like that, he delivered another sort of sign of growth. 2 big plays to Lad McConkey, then the J.K. Dobbins run pretty much to as the clock expired to win the game. The Chargers really, with the way that second half went, only scoring 3 points compared to the Bengals, 3 touchdowns in that second half. The momentum was firmly on Cincinnati's side. They halted that, and then they went and scored literally in the dying embers. This Chargers team is different. I wouldn't say I'm fully there yet, but I can't lie. Jim Harbaugh's done a great job in his first year, and I think that's what I mean. I want to talk about the Bengals because if they lose one more game, it's over. There's no way you're getting into this AFC playoff picture at 8 losses. If they've already got 7, and it is such a shame because that defense has let down a team. It's let down a city. It's let down so many fans because Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, the offensive line hasn't even been bad for Cincinnati this year. They are putting up generational numbers on offense. Jamar Chase could have one of the best receiver seasons ever, the way it's going, and yet they're not going to be anywhere near the playoffs the way it's going. Yeah, obviously, coaching has been a big factor on both sides of the ball. Lou's been great. Lou Anarumo has been great the last couple of years. This year, not so much. They've neglected the safety position, and that's backfired on them as well. And yeah, now you've got to have a conversation. Should you miss the playoffs, what do you do about Zach Taylor? Because so many people have criticised him because they feel like, someone better could be doing a better job with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and everything you've got. You've got some interesting decisions. What do you do with T. Higgins? I mean, for me, obviously you'd like to keep him around. Like, Higgins there makes Chase better, makes Burrow better. Since he's come back, this offense is unstoppable. But look at the rest of the team. Look at the coaching. So there's going to be wholesale changes in Cincinnati this year. I personally would get rid of the coach, especially when you look at Ben Johnson being available, for example, the other head coach candidates. Maybe you go for like a sort of hard drilled guy like Mike Vrabel there, or there are so many head coaching candidates this year that there is an opportunity to move on from Zach Taylor if you are Cincinnati. It's just it's just whether they do or not. But yeah, no, I wanted to get all that off my chest from last week. Also in the AFC playoff picture as well. Obviously the Broncos smashed the Falcons and sort of tightened their grip on the 7 seed. But you also saw, when Cincinnati lost, you saw both the Colts and the Dolphins leapfrog them. Both of those guys have got very, very easy schedules the rest of the year. So if those guys can get some wins together, they'll be able to put pressure on Denver. And I think we're going to get a very, very tight race between Denver, the Colts, and Miami. I'd probably say Denver and Miami are the two most likely, because I don't say I trust the Colts yet. But Denver were amazing, but so were the other two teams this week. And I feel like Denver have got the hardest schedule of the three, I believe. If they drop a game or two, those two teams are right there, and the Dolphins can get to 500 should they beat the Patriots, and beat Green Bay on Thanksgiving, which is entirely possible. And again, the Colts can get there as well should they should they beat Detroit. But we'll see what happens. But that's their hardest game in the schedule. At 7, if the Colts win out, which is doable, I'd say the Dolphins winning out is more doable, because I feel like the Colts are having a bit of a disappointing team this year. Maybe, but basically I'm saying that this Denver race is not over, because you've got two teams behind them that are going to put the pressure on. And I believe the Bengals could have been that team as well, but Sunday night really, really cost them. Okay, we'll before we get on to picking the Week 12 slate against the spread, let's talk about flag football. It is one of the world's fastest growing sports. It's now an Olympic sport in the LA 28 Games. And I went down to the Cheltenham Neptunes practice, a flag football team in Cheltenham and Gloucestershire, to see what makes flag so special. If you're unaware, flag is a fast, non-contact, five-a-side version of American football, of the NFL, that is taking the world by storm. The NFL are investing so much money into it. So are the Jacksonville Jaguars in this country with JagTag, for example. There's so many. There was an event with Prince William a couple months ago. If it's good for a future king, it's good. It's going to be it's going to absolutely boom in this country. I spoke to Ben Newham, who is the president of the Cheltenham Neptunes. As I said, he created the team 5 years or so ago. Started off in a park. They're now one of the best teams in the country. They're in the top division. I think they were 12th overall across the two North and South divisions in the BAFA Premiership this year. I spoke to him about why it is the perfect community sport to get involved in.
Yeah, it's a relatively safe sport. It's non-contact. It's very inclusive in the terms that we have a really broad range of players who play for us from all kinds of different backgrounds, all kinds of different ages, all kinds of physical attributes. It doesn't matter, what your background is. If you're new to sport entirely, I myself, I'd never played sport until I turned 30. So it's a great way to introduce people to being active and introducing them to becoming part of a community of people who all share the same passion for the sport, whether they love NFL or not. It's a wonderful sport to play.
I referred to it earlier, the story. This story is great. I spoke to Ben about how he formed the Neptunes and how he found flag, which is his big passion now.
It started off just as a hobby. Me and a few friends, we love NFL, we were playing fantasy football, and we would just have a throw around in the park every Sunday. And one of the guys said, we should do this every week, we should make a team. I thought, great, yeah, I'll do that, I'll make a team. None of them turned up, but I persevered. I set our group up on Facebook and people started to show up. So it started off as a hobby, and then we had much better athletes starting to turn up, and it just gradually just got more serious and we started becoming quite competitive.
Such an awesome story about how you came to set up the Cheltenham Neptunes. After talking to Ben, I got to watch their practice with head coach Daniel Selwood, as well as two players, Ashley Lewis and Megan Hardwick, speaking to me after the practice. I asked them what made flag so special. Obviously, head coach of the Neptunes. Why is it such a popular sport?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's very inclusive. Like, you can get so many different. We have so many people from totally different walks of life. You know, like I'm a doctor myself, but you have we're playing with kids as young as 16. We've got come along here. We've got like women, men, ex-pro players from other sports coming into play, like a non-contact fun sport. And people coming over from basketball, from contact football, from all sorts of people who've never seen the game to people who've loved American football all their life, and so it all brings everyone in together. So yeah, it's great fun.
And the word I keep hearing from everyone is fun.
Yeah.
What is it that makes flag so fun?
Oh, so many things. It's got something for everybody. If you're absolutely love American football and maybe you've played contact before, this is a way of playing some of that, though it is a very different sport, but some of that without the same sort of danger to your brain that comes with contact. But then for other people, like for myself, I'm a massive nerd. I love all of the schemes, the tactics, all of that sort of stuff. I love watching film, so that's what I love about it. I respect that I'm in a minority there, but then for people who just want to ling a ball around and jump very high and catch balls and run fast, it's got something for everybody. You can go as deep or as shallow as you want, and you can still play to a really high level.
Well, I started playing contact American football when I was in university in Swansea, and I was looking for something to keep going during the off-season, during the summer, and I came across my local team. I live back in Swansea, the Swansea Hamheads. I still have a lot of friends in that team, but that's how I got into flag, was just going down. I went down to what I thought was a training session, turned out being a friendly game, just played a bit, played some different positions, and yeah, had some fun. And then slowly over the years, I stopped lying to myself and admitted I preferred flag for different reasons, but yeah, then that's how I got into flag, really. Just started falling in love with it. The ability just to throw the ball into play, everyone can catch it, there's more action, faster paced, and you can just play more, to be honest.
So I think what makes it so good is it's a sport that you can get into with any level of experience. So yeah, as I said, I started when I was pretty young, but we started just learning the rules, and we didn't have a coach or anything. We just really got into enjoying the sport. And I think that's the thing, is any level of athleticism, any level of knowledge of the sport, you can get in and you can start trying. And the people that play it are really passionate about it, so love telling people and love giving that knowledge to other people to really bring up the sport, because it's about bringing people up rather than beating them.
We also spoke about the Olympic announcement and what that could do for the future of flag.
Programme's going great. We've been growing really, really well over the last few years. As you said, like, flag's just been growing in popularity massively, and especially with the Olympic announcement in 3-4 years time now. It's just exploded all over the country. So we have probably increased about 30%, I would say, in terms of our players and members, just within the last 2 or 3 months.
Really, really excited. So I'm currently playing for the GB Silvers. I think the Olympics is a stretch too far for myself, but there's the opportunity to play with players who are going to play in the Olympics and maybe do some coaching with them as well. So it's just super, super exciting. This niche sport, a niche of a niche, you could say, is going to be on the world stage, and some of the people I've grown up playing with are going to get the opportunity to show their talent. So I'm super excited about it, and super excited about what it could do at a local level as well. So here, the Cheltenham Neptunes, we're seeing an impact from that already. So just really excited just to see how it unfolds.
And obviously, being an Olympic sport, there's so many more eyes on it, which is only a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The more people play, and the more we raise the floor of the game, but also the ceiling as well. So it's just absolutely great for just increasing participation and just improving the level of the game as well, because I think that's where it can grow the most.
We have guys who've literally been playing the sport for less than a year, and having trials at GB. The one thing I would say is, having been involved in the GB program previously, the level that's in the GB program now in terms of talent is going up and up and up and up, and that's only natural with the announcement of the Olympics. So it's going to keep getting more and more competitive, but there's still opportunities for people. We're 4 years out from the Olympics, and there's still opportunities for people if they're looking for a sport to get into, which they can get a chance of get an Olympic medal. This is one you can get into and get to a very, very high level very fast. If you've got the athletic prowess, if you've got the drive, then you can do it.
And finally, there aren't many sports that allow men and women to play alongside each other or compete against each other, to be honest with you. Flag is a co-ed sport. It is the exception. As well as being standalone men's and women's flag teams in the area and in the country, the Neptunes are one of many teams that are co-ed, allowing men and women to play on the same team. I asked all of the Neptunes that I spoke to what that unique experience is like.
A group of mostly guys and a couple of girls, and it's really good to just see that mixture. And it's also good that I get that they don't treat me like I can't play alongside them. They're really inclusive, and it's a really inclusive sport. You go to game days and you see mixed teams fielding women, which is really great.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We have women in our team, and play on the same team, and it's sort of, as well as having women's teams as well as mixed teams, and I think that sort of it brings a different dynamic to it. I think that's something I've always found with many of the sports I've been involved with is you can get there is a bit of a toxic masculinity side to it sometimes, and I think it's useful having women around as well, just to sort of give that other perspective on things, and I think as well as obviously being elite athletes in their own right. I mean, our GB women's team is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, they won the Euros not very long ago. They were doing unbelievably at the World Championships, just fell short, I think lost in the quarterfinals. But, I think if they had won that very close game, they'd have gone on to the final, I'm absolutely certain. And in terms of our medal hopes, women's GB are right up there in terms of having a shot at winning a medal in flag in 4 years.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? A big thank you to the Neptunes for inviting me down. I really enjoyed going down and talking to everyone. I really enjoyed watching the practice as well, and I am tempted to get involved in flag now, because it is a really fun, inclusive sport that I would someone who potentially would like to get more active. I'd like to get potentially more active myself. Something like that, which is so community driven, is something that I would be drawn to, and again, I would recommend anyone who's thinking about getting into playing American football, start with flag. Again, it's safer, it's faster. It is probably a better thing for a beginner to start off with. They cater very well to beginners. And if you are interested in trying flag, I will put some links in the description to find out how you can find your local team, because it really is a movement. And yeah, this won't be the last you're hearing of flag football on this podcast before the LA Games, because it is about to boom. Over 100,000 kids are going to be playing it in schools by 2026, by 2028, as more and more eyes go on it, as more and more casuals find out that it is going to be an Olympic sport. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I said, a big thank you for everyone who invited me down. I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into flag over the next couple of years. And I can't wait to watch it in the Olympics. Okay, here it is. Let's go and pick the Week 12 games with Mr. Olly Darcy, journalist and my friend, of course, and regular guest on the podcast. Okay, so we look forward to the rest of Week 12 now. We'll go through and do all of our picks, as we always do, to end the podcast. I'm here with Olly Darcy, who's a regular guest on the podcast, was on earlier in the season. First off, welcome back, Olly, and Feels weird being in the UK at the moment, doesn't it? Because right now it's colder than in Green Bay. It's colder in the UK than it is in Buffalo right now as well. And we're deep into November football. It's weird, isn't it?
I'm loving it. We're back in proper football territory right now. Feels in the UK as well, like you say, we're properly in the cold now, and it's proper full time now. Week 12 coming up. I mean, this is where all the games properly matter now.
Yeah, the run down to the end of the season is here. After this week, we've got Thanksgiving football coming up, and after then, it's Christmas and all about looking ahead to week 17 and week 18, where those playoff spots are decided. And we're going to start with Thursday night football here, a big Thursday night football in the AFC playoff picture, because the Steelers can't really afford to lose after taking the lead in the AFC North last week with that win over Baltimore. If they win this one, again, it's another AFC North win, and it takes them closer towards their first AFC North title in a little bit, and also their fourth playoff berth in 5 years. And I think they're going to win this game, but AFC North, those games are always close. I feel like it's going to come down to the very end, especially on a Thursday night football games. Anything can happen. So I'm going to pick Cleveland to come within 3. So I think the Steelers are going to win. They can win by 1 or 2, and my pick can still come in. I just feel like this is going to be a close game, so I'm going to go Cleveland, but I do think the Steelers are going to win this game.
Look, divisional games, they're always trap games, aren't they? That's just what they are. But Thursday, as you said, it's going to be a Thursday, so it'll either be a 1-point game or it's going to be a blowout. And I think it's going to lean more that way. Coaching is king in this league. It always is. And I mean, I think the Steelers will win, like you said, and I think Mike Tomlin will again get another winning record when not many people thought he would this season, and he'll do it by week 12. And I think they'll cover the spread. Maybe not so handily as many others might think, but I think give them, maybe a 6 point, maybe 2 field goals, and that'll do it for the Steelers. So, give me the Steelers.
Yeah, I think this will be an entertaining game compared to some Thursday night games, just because like the rivalries there. These two teams know each other so well. There's coaching staffs, both of them have been there for a while as well, so you're going to know tendencies and things like that. So you're going to get a good game, and the Browns' defense, we'll see how that fares up against the Steelers' offense, because those two units are the two units that are obviously we know what the Steelers' defense is. The Browns' defense in the past has been good. It's been good at points this year, but there are some vulnerabilities there. Obviously, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are brilliant, but in other positions there are vulnerabilities there. And the Steelers' offense. This is the best Steelers' offense we've had in a very long time. So we're going to see we're going to have an entertaining game, and I think this is going to be a fun one. But I think Pittsburgh are going to win it. Let's just say that. Okay, on to the early window. We'll start with one of the biggest spreads of the week. The Chiefs go into Carolina here, and they are 10.5-point favourites on the road, which is absolutely remarkable. I can't believe that, to be honest with you. Well, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Oh, am I? No, do you know what? The Chiefs don't win games big. The Chiefs don't win games big. They really don't.
That was in my head as well. I was thinking they haven't had many double-digit wins this year already.
And the Carolina, they're coming off. Recently they've been decent. They're coming off a bye, obviously playing in Germany the week before, and Bryce Young's been looking decent since he came back into the lineup. So I think the Chiefs are going to win. They'll probably win by about 7-8 points maybe, but I don't think they're going to blow out the Panthers. So I'm going to pick the Panthers to come within 10. 10.5 is a massive spread for a Chiefs team that really can't score points.
Yeah, there's another double-digit spread I think coming later in the list that I might have differing views than Vegas does. This one, I think I'm on the Vegas train. I think Chiefs losing their first game, they are going to bounce back, and I think what better way to do it against the Panthers? Panthers will put up a bit of a fight. I don't think it will be like a Detroit. I don't think it'll be a Lions blowout like we've seen so far this season. But I think it'll be. I think a couple touchdowns might be the difference there. So I'll go with the Chiefs on this one. I'll give them that. They're going to come out swinging after last week, 100%.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's the stats like Andy Reid off a bye is brilliant, Chiefs off a loss are brilliant. They're going to win this game. I just don't think they're going to blow out teams because they don't do that.
It's coaching again. It's just going to these are the games that just show the difference in caliber off the sidelines as well.
Going back to an all-division tie now, this time in the NFC North, the Bears host the Vikings, again, one of the fiercest rivalries in the NFL. The Bears are home underdogs, so the Vikings are favored by 3.5 points going into Soldier Field, where the Bears were pretty good last week. First game after firing Shane Walden, who I think many people believe was the problem with that offense and the reason why Caleb Williams hasn't looked good. First game back against a great Packers defense, they look really good. And that's given me the confidence to pick them to at least come within 3 in this game. I don't know if they're going to win it, but certainly I don't think Minnesota... I think Minnesota, look, they're favored by 3.5 points. And I picked against them last week. They're not the same team they were earlier in the season. You're starting to see the Sam Darnold mistakes come to fruition now. You're starting to see a defense that was aggressive and great at the start of the season being cooked a bit more. Now, against a lesser team, it's going to be good, but we'll see. The Chicago have got weapons. They've got everything there other than an offensive line. If they can scheme something up, I think they could even win this game. I'm going to pick the Vikings to win the game, but again, I don't think they're going to win by a big margin, so I'm going to pick Chicago to make this one interesting and come within 3.
Now, I watched most of the Chicago game last week, and they should have won that game. They controlled it on offense. Their defense is still very good, as it has been for years. They've got some playmakers on that side of the ball. And as I said to you, the Vikings, they aren't looking like that that 4-0 team that started with that unbelievable run. Darnold was throwing the ball every which way, not making any of his usual mistakes. As you say, that's coming back now. This is a game that could go either way, and it's a divisional game, so there is no underdog, overdog, whatever you want to call them. I will go with the Bears. I think they have to win one of these games. It's just they have to. If they don't, serious decisions have to be made with either Matt Eberflus or Ryan Poles, their GM, because if you can't be winning these close games with the roster that they have built, they've spent a lot of money, they've invested a lot of draft capital, they have to start winning these games. And if they don't, then serious questions will have to be asked 100%. I think it's got to be their time at Soldier Field as well. And I think it will really shake up the NFC North. Yeah, Bears are going to
it will shake up the NFC playoff picture really as well, because it is super close. If Minnesota win this game, then they're at 9 wins. They're pretty much already a step closer to the playoffs. At 9-2 is very unlikely you're gonna drop out of the playoffs. If they lose this game, then you've got Green Bay hot on their tails. You've got people like Washington and the NFC West teams as well. All looking for a wild card spot. That's where it could get interesting. So the Vikings need to win this game, really, and they've actually got a tougher schedule than some coming up. So we'll see how that goes. But I just feel like momentum's a thing, and the Vikings aren't really on a high right now. I feel like the Bears after last week are on a high, and I think that's what will make this game interesting. Okay, another a division game, this time in the AFC. The Texans host the Titans. Texans favored by 7.5 points at home, and I'm going to keep this one sweet. I picked the Titans to come within the spread, or every single week, and they let me down every single week because they're so poorly coached. The defense is great. I think it really is, and I've been taught so many times before. I'm going to pick the Texans to cover the 7.5 point spread, which is tough because the Texans don't. Again, they're like the Chiefs. They don't win. They win games, but they don't win big. Other than last week against Dallas, but Dallas is so bad. That's another story. But now Nico Collins is back. Now obviously Joe Mixon's on absolute fire right now. If they can protect Stroud, they win this game easily. Yeah. And so I am gonna pick the Texans to win it by 7.5, obviously over a score. well, actually 8 points is a score, but yeah, Texans by 8. I think I've just been let down by the Titans so many times before, and the way it's going, Brian Callahan could be one and done because the Titans just are not a fun team to watch whatsoever.
I mean, who knew that? I mean, when Nico Collins went down with his injury, we knew that bringing him back would open up the Texans so much more. I don't think you would have thought that a season ago, or maybe in the beginning of this season and a half ago for sure. He's back. He's looking brilliant. We were looking at some of the grades, and some of his grades, he's played minimal snaps and he's up there with the best of the best receivers already. It's just bonkers how good he's been. He's back. He makes their offense tick. D'Amico Ryans is doing wonders with their defense, as always. The Titans are not a good team. They are really struggling at the moment, bless them. Callahan probably will be one and done, and Texans will cover that. Maybe not as easily as some others think, but 10 points at least, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, on to the game that is on Sky Sports this week. The Colts host the Lions. Not a great early slate. The value is in the later slate, I'd say. But we get to see the Lions on Sky, which is always nice because of how good they've been this season. They are favoured by 8 going into Indianapolis. Big game for the Colts as well because they won last week when Anthony Richardson returns, beating the Jets, obviously. In the AFC playoff picture, they've already got a tiebreaker over Miami. So if the Colts can keep winning, they're not out of the playoff picture by any means after last week. They've got about a 20% chance of getting in or so. If Miami slip up, if Denver slip off, obviously, who are currently in that 7th seed spot, then Indianapolis really could cause a threat. Do I think they're going to win this game or at least come close against the Lions? No, because they're the best coach team in the NFL. They're, both sides of the ball are better than the Colts offense, Colts defense. It's very rare I'll pick a team to win by 8 points on the road. I think the Detroit Lions are the team that can do that. There's that amazing stat that Jared Goff is brilliant in a dome going to Indianapolis, where there is a dome. So there's no cold weather or anything to deal with. For me, the Lions win this game by, again, like you're saying with the Texans, double digits, and go further extend that lead at the top of the NFC.
Yeah, I don't have much to disagree with there. I mean, how the Lions kept hold of Ben Johnson this offseason was absolutely outrageous. He proved to be probably the best offensive coach in the league, and they've still got him. And then alongside Dan Campbell, who's the best man manager in this league by far. Coaching is king, and 8 point underdogs for the Colts at home, and it won't be too close for them. So Lions all day for me.
Awesome. I mentioned the Dolphins. They're the next team coming up. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now because they're scoring points galore. They're great on third down since Tua has come back. They need to win this game against the Patriots to stay alive. It's an AFC East game. It's a divisional game. Now, Tua Tagovailoa, I believe, is 5-0 or 6-0 against the Patriots in his career. So if you're taking that into account, then the Dolphins historically will win this game. I think they will win this game, but the Patriots are 7.5 point underdogs going into Miami. It was a close game last time, and admittedly, the Dolphins had Tyler Huntley that game. But Drake May's really impressed me, so I think they're going to make this a game. I think the Dolphins win this game, but with the way they've been so up and down on defense recently, I don't trust them to blow out a team. It was a close game with the Raiders last week until the sort of last 5 minutes of the game. So I don't think they're going to blow out New England. So I'm going to pick New England to come within 7, but I do think the Dolphins win and go to 5-6 ahead of their Thanksgiving game.
I wasn't thinking that I'd be agreeing with you on this game, but it looks like I am. I think Miami will win. I think they will, but it's a divisional game. As you say, it is probably a must-win for them. And we know what they've been like, especially under Mike McDaniel with Tua, in these sort of big must-win games. They've just looked stagnant, maybe not the right word, but it's like rabbit in the headlights a little bit. I think they'll pull through because I think they have got the quality and a little bit better coaching to push them over the edge against the Patriots. But divisional game, against the Patriots, they are good. They are well coached. I like what Jared May is doing over there. As you say, Drake May looks like he could be the guy for them. It will be a Miami win, but they won't blow them out. The Patriots will cover that spread, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be a nervous watch for me as a Dolphins fan on Sunday, 100%. But I mean, I do feel if it was in New England, I would feel nervous. In Miami, the Dolphins are quite hard to beat. So I do know to get over the hump and again set up a game on Thanksgiving in a big spot, prime time against the Packers. And the last time that happened, Tua got another concussion and the Dolphins ended their season. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen again. but it's the Dolphins again. I mean, it's remarkable they could be on their way potentially to a fifth straight winning season, despite not winning a playoff game in that time, only making the playoffs twice in that time. They've probably been the unluckiest team in the NFL in that time. They're going to need luck to get into the playoffs with the way Denver are playing, and we'll get onto them in a minute. But it's certainly possible with the schedule they've got. Okay, 2 final games in the early window. We're going to they're both in the NFC. One's a divisional game. We're going to start with the one that's not, as the Giants host the Bucks. The Giants with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, which we discussed earlier in the podcast. And yeah, no wonder the Bucks are favoured by 5.5 points going into MetLife Stadium. Simply put, the Bucks are the better coach team. They've got a better quarterback. They've got the better weapons. Mike Evans might be coming back for this game. And I'd probably say the Bucks have just slightly got a better defense personnel-wise right now because the Giants have got so many injuries. So right now, I do feel like Brian Burns can make a difference in this game for the Giants. It might be not be a blowout, but I am going to pick the Bucks to win by 5.5 because if they win this game, with the way the Falcons are playing, they could still be in life for the division, but they need to start winning games. And if Evans is in there, I've never been more confident that Tampa Bay are going to win this game.
Yeah, having him back is big. I mean, I think Baker has done well without Godwin and Evans. He's not crumbled at all. They need to start winning games, like you said. They have missed them, but not as much as many thought. The Giants that's as you say, like the Cowboys. That's another story. I think they could spring a little surprise on offense, maybe with Tommy DeVito, because I mean last year it wasn't anything special, but he looked quite good. It looked quite nice. It was a good story. Whether we'll see that on Sunday, I don't know. It's got to be the Bucks for me going into MetLife. I thought the spread would be even wider, to be honest. Give me the Bucks on that one.
Awesome. Talking about the Cowboys, we'll go over to them now because they are 9.5 point underdogs going into Washington. Who would have thought that going into the season? Obviously, Dallas have Cooper Rush after Dak Prescott was ruled out for the season a couple of weeks ago. Washington off a mini bye after playing on Thursday Night Football last week, where they lost their first loss in a while. First time losing 2 in a row because they lost to the Steelers before. They want to stop this slide. They want to at least challenge Philly for the division when they play in Week 16. They're good enough to win this game, especially with the way Dallas are playing on both offense and defense. Their defense has been so disappointing. They can't stop the run at all. This Washington team are amazing at running the football. It's their main strength. They're favored by 10. I don't care. I'm picking Washington to win by even more than 10 because I just feel it's a bad matchup for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can say right now about the Cowboys, apart from the fact that they honestly could be close to blowing it all up. You've paid Dak, so you maybe don't. You've got some players there. Mike McCarthy, I love what he did with the Packers, of course, but I think his time is done. That offense is just looking stale, really, really stale, unfortunately for them. Washington, I think the surprise of the season, definitely. I love what they're doing at the moment. I think they're a really fun team to watch. It's bizarre. You wouldn't have said that Washington would have been your favourite team like 3-4 seasons ago with all of what was going on, both on field, off field. Now they're a joy to watch, really. 10 points, 20 points whatever it's going to be. That's Washington's game.
Yeah, and if anyone knows the Cowboys' tendencies, it's Dan Quinn. So, we'll see how that game goes. Okay, we have got a lot better of a late window and also 2 awesome primetime games to talk about, so we'll get into those now. The only game at 9:05 sees the Raiders host the Broncos. The Raiders, who looked pretty good, I have to say, against the Dolphins last week. Brock Bowers had an absolute game. Gardner Minshew as well, getting his being named the starter again, looked brilliant. Well, at least for a Gardner Minshew standard, it looked pretty good. The Broncos, on the other hand, well, they were brilliant last week against Atlanta. The defense has been good all year. Bo Nix had one of his best games of the year. They were up by 2-3 scores really early in the first half, and they just took control of the game from there. I do think that Denver win, but again, the rate is it's in Vegas. It's a division game. I feel like the Raiders have the potential to at least make it a game against anyone. With the way they looked last week, with it being a division game, I think they're going to come within the 4.5 point spread that Denver are favoured by. But I think Denver are going to win, but I don't know if they're going to win by a touchdown, if I'm being honest. I think this will be closer than a lot of people think it will be. Obviously, the Raiders, Antonio Pierce probably trying to save his job, if we're being honest. We'll see what happens there. I thought we saw last week, them coming out their bye. I think they're going to at least cause Denver a little bit of trouble. Denver have actually historically had a bit of a problem against the Raiders as well. So we will see if that can continue. I think Denver win, but not by a touchdown. So give me Vegas here.
Yeah, Vegas. The bettors, the spreads that they've called this week are pretty bizarre. There's a lot of games where you don't think they'll call them, or they'll cover them, but they will win games like your Chiefs, like this game that you've just said, Vegas and Denver. I think Denver will cover the spread though. I think they showed what they can be against the Falcons, and I think they will continue to do that. Maybe not to the extent of what they did against the Falcons, but I think against a lesser opponent in Vegas, I think they'll continue with what they go and build up. This is where you want to hit your peak now. You start playing good football now, take that potentially into the playoffs. And I said before the season to you, I had Denver as a sneaky playoff team, and you did not. I couldn't believe it. I saw signs in pre-season when they played the Packers that they looked pretty good. And now they're showing Sean Payton is showing what he can do with players like Bo Nix. And yeah, I think this is one that Denver will take.
Oh, absolutely. I think Payton's done a great job, and I think they probably will be a playoff team now. It's mad how they've gone from getting put 70 on them at the start of last year to beating the Chiefs at the end of last year, and now they've got a winning record and hold a playoff spot in just over a year. They've gone from looking one of the worst teams in the league and one of the worst losses ever to a playoff. It's a brilliant job, and I think Bo's playing some great football as well. As I said, I think Denver win the game, but I think Raiders will make it close. Okay, the big game in the late window is two big ones. One big divisional game, this one big historical rivalry between the Packers and the Niners. It's in Lambeau Field. Packers are favored by 1.5 points, which is normally the home advantage. So it's a pick 'em pretty much in this game as to who we think is going to win the game. Look, Green Bay have had trouble against the Niners, and pretty much every single time I play them. This is a different Niners team. Obviously, two guys who know each other well, and Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur. I just feel like the Niners have to win this game to stay alive. If they lose this game, I tell you what, they're missing the playoffs without because they'll be too far behind in the division. I think huge game for Shanahan, one of the biggest games of his career, especially with this team. They're not looking as talented as previously, but Brock Purdy's playing brilliantly, and I think this is a game where if Kittle plays, if Bosa plays, they need to step up, because without them at the second half of last week's game, they weren't the same, and that's when Seattle came back to win that game. I'm going to go with history. I'm going to go with the Niners to come in and win this game, but I think this will be a different game to the other one. I think Green Bay at least going to put up a fight. I just trust Purdy more than Jordan Love at the moment with the amount of turnovers that Love's given up.
I agree with you about Purdy probably being a bit more trustworthy than Love, especially this year. There's been a few AMLs from Love. I said it to you today. I think it's a bit of a sophomore slump for him, Love. It's not really been a slump per se. He's dealt with a bit of injury. Some of his throws have been questionable, to say the least. I think that's what Packers fans are going to have to deal with for his whole career. I think that is how he plays, and it comes with great results. I mean, last year he was slinging the ball around, and it just looked brilliant. They need to get back to that level because the offenses look good, but it's not got to that level yet. The Niners is going to be, as you said, one of their biggest games in. They've had a lot of Super Bowls, but at least regular season, it's going to be one of their biggest games. They have to win this. It sounded like George Kittle said he was ready to go. Nick Bosa will be the big one on defense because I think if he's not playing, I think the Packers can hold off a already pretty stacked defense. It's such an iconic rivalry. This is playoffs, regular season. They've had so many great games, but I think I will go with Green Bay. I think this is the game where they will turn things around. They turned it around similar time last year. I say turn it around. They're 7-3, but it hasn't been pretty. Last week, a field goal to beat Chicago. It's going to be. It'll be close. Always is with the Niners. But I think this is going to be Green Bay. I think this is where Love will turn up. One key thing, Robert Saleh is in the building for Green Bay now for the rest of the year. He knows this 49ers team well, very, very well. He drew up a couple of plays on the offense that helped Green Bay last week. I think his knowledge of the game and the Niners is going to be invaluable, and for the rest of the season as well. Give me Green Bay for this one.
Love it. That will certainly make it interesting in the NFC West, where we'll stay. Seattle host Arizona. Both of these teams have beaten the Niners this season. Both of them, obviously, Arizona leads the division at 6-4. The Seahawks ahead of the Niners in third place in the NFC West, behind the Rams. All of these teams, obviously separated by a game and a half because of the separate advantages, but they're all one game record away from each other. Any of the four teams can win the division. Arizona right now have the lead. They've beaten both the Rams and the Niners, so they've got 2 division wins, so they're looking quite good. Seattle last week showed us something. The offense is starting to look really good. Geno Smith had a good game last week. The defense got a lot better, and I think that's the first half, sort of quarter of the season. The defense was brilliant for Seattle. Second half, not great. Second quarter, not great. Last week there might have been a turning point there. And going up against Kyler Murray, they're going to need that because this is the best colour we've ever seen. The Seahawks are favored by 1.5 points. So again, it's just a pick 'em, and I find it quite hard to pick against Seattle in that building. One of the hardest stadiums to play. And if they win this game, they will take the lead of the NFC West, which looked really, really unlikely a couple of weeks ago. With all the results that have happened, the Seahawks, I think they had like a sort of 15-20% chance of making the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. Well, if they win this game again, they will take the lead of the NFC West, which is absolutely crazy. And I'm picking chaos. I think it would be funny to see a division game, literally a division that will come down to the final game of the season in the final Week 18 division games. I'm here for it. I probably feel like Arizona are the better team, but it's in Seattle. With how Seattle played last week, I'm going to go for them.
Now, out of all the games we've talked about, we're picking today, this is the game that I'm flipping back and forth with so much. I do not know who to take. I don't know what to go with. Arizona coming off a bye, going into Seattle, yes, it's going to be tricky, but Kyler Murray is playing the best football, like you said, of his career. He's playing really nice. I think this is the best the Cardinals have looked, under with Kyler Murray. I know they had their 8-0 9-0 start to the year.
With Cliff Kingsbury. I think they went like a 7-0, 11-1 or something. I think they made. They went and then lost in the first round of the playoffs because
they tailed off big time. This year they're looking a lot better, I think, personally. The Seahawks showed something last week, and it was like signs of life almost. It's like Lazarus coming back from the dead. It was just like. It's great to see because the Seahawks are one of the biggest franchises in the league. Whenever that team does well, the NFL does well. But I think the Cardinals have shown a bit more consistency. They've looked a bit better. And even though it's in Seattle, I can see them coming in. And I think I can see them taking control of the NFC West. I really do. So for me, I picked Arizona on the sleeper earlier today, and I'm going to stick with it. I think it is going to be an Arizona win.
Okay, we'll get on to Sunday Night Football now, where if the Rams win, then that lead of the NFC West will not last very long for Seattle, only 3 hours, because the Rams do have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. So again, it's flipped. So the Cardinals could go from first to third in the division. In a matter of 3 hours. It just shows how tight it will be. If the Rams beat the Eagles, Philly are favoured by 3.5 points on the road going into SoFi Stadium. Philly are an interesting one. Again, never start games well, but somehow they're 8-2. They've hardly scored any points in the first quarter at all. But Saquon Barkley has just absolutely been a revelation. Him and Derrick Henry, the two of them, and Jamar Chase, they've been the three best offensive players in the league this season. And I'm including quarterbacks in that list as well. The three of them have been brilliant. They're quite literally unstoppable, the three of them are. But the Rams have a really good defensive front. They're really good against the run as well, which we didn't think they would be after losing Aaron Donald this offseason. But Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, Young, so many players on that defensive line that already in the first or second year, like two of them are playing absolutely brilliantly. I think the Rams defense could eliminate Barkley, and then if that's the case, then it's going to rely on Jalen Hurts, who at points this season, not the last couple of weeks, but at points has been prone to turning the ball over, and if AJ Brown's not down there. So I'm going to pick. I don't know who wins this game. I think it's going to be a really close game. The fact that Philly are favored by 3.5 points on the road does not. I'm not confident with that spread. So I'm going to pick the Rams. I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm going to stay up and watch it as well because I'm just intrigued to find out what the Rams are. A lot better in offense last week. Now Nakua is back and healthy. Now Cup's back and healthy. They could be a real problem in the NFC if they win this game. If the Rams lose this game, it's not looking great for them. So, and then obviously for Philly, if they win, they can put pressure on Detroit. They'll have another, they can stay above Washington in the division by a further game after beating them last week. This game is brilliant. I can't wait to watch it. But I'm just going to pick the Rams to come within 3.
I didn't think I'd be agreeing with you on this one as well because it's such a bizarre game to call because I think we've both got the same opinion on Philly, and they've not looked as impressive as I think a lot of people think they are. I see a lot of top fives floating around, and yes, they're 8-2, but I don't think they're an 8-2 team. Well, I don't think they're a top 5 team. Let's put it that way. They rely heavily on Saquon Barkley. If he doesn't play well, then I think Jalen Hurts is one of those quarterbacks. There's quite a few in the league. He relies so much on that run game. That is his game. If that run game goes, then there's just nothing that it's just one-dimensional, and that's where you rely on Nick Sirianni to open up a bit more. And we've not seen that, whether that's through Hurts, through Sirianni. You don't see it. The Rams, they've had a lot of injuries, so that's why they are where they are at the moment. I think now they are slowly building themselves back up. They played a good Patriots team. Patriots always make it a battle. They came through that last week, and I think they will cover it, and I think they will beat the Eagles. It's at home, like you said. I think it'll be another classic game where the Eagles will find a way to win it in the fourth quarter again, probably. But like you said, it is such an intriguing game. You just don't know which way it's going to turn. I can see the Rams under McVay grabbing this game by the scruff of the neck, eliminating Saquon as much as they can, and coming out with a win.
Yeah, two teams that don't start well. Though I think the Rams have only scored in the opening drive in one or two games this season. The Eagles, again, I think is one or two games in the first quarter they've scored points. So someone's going to have to score first, and whoever scores first will probably win this game. So certainly the first drive of that game is going to be fun to watch. Okay, we'll finish off with Monday Night Football. It is the Harbaugh Bowl, which returns obviously Jim Harbaugh's Chargers host John Harbaugh's Ravens. So back-to-back primetime games at SoFi Stadium in 2 nights, which I think is quite cool. I think they've done that, which is weird having 2 games in the same stadium, both on primetime, and a game after, a night after each other. So it's gonna be a quick turnaround, painting those end zones certainly for the ground staff. As for the game, Chargers looked brilliantly. I went into it earlier in the podcast. I think Jim Harbaugh's done a great job. Justin Herbert's playing the best he has since his rookie year, maybe the best he's ever played. And the defense is a lot better than it was under Brandon Staley. It's one of the best in the league under Jesse Minter. But Baltimore, they are favored by 3.5 in this game going into LA. Obviously, the Chargers don't really have a home field advantage, so they're just favored by 3.5 points. I'm not picking against them. Last week, I'm a little bit stupid picking them as the best team in the league. Maybe I was a little bit out of my mind there, but I think they're certainly the most dangerous team in the league with this offense. If the defense can just do its job, they'll win this game, I think. If the pass defense can do its job and limit Loud McConkey there, because that's all the Chargers have got on offense, to be honest with you, other than their run game, they win this game. The Ravens are very good against off a loss. We saw they got absolutely, they lost that game to Raiders. To the Raiders, they were brilliant afterwards. Went on that winning streak. They're again really really good off a loss, and for them they need to win this game. If the Ravens lose this game, then suddenly the AFC playoff picture is looking very very different to what it did a couple of weeks ago. They went from potential 1 seed candidates with the Chiefs and the Bills to now not only not leading the division. Now, they've got Denver behind them. So, huge game for Baltimore. They always win in this spot, in the regular season anyway. And I think we're going to see vintage Lamar, Derrick Henry, and obviously brothers coaching. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. And, these are one of those games that when you look at the season schedule at the start, you circle this game. And, again, I will stay up to watch this game.
Yeah, it's got all the storylines, hasn't it? This game, it is perfect, especially with Baltimore coming off their loss as well, and the Chargers. They're playing. Jim Harbaugh taking that team, and he's done what he usually does with it wherever he goes, taking control of it. I think, as you say, you circle this game because it's the Harbaugh Bowl. I don't think you think it's as good as you expect it to be. Is it coming up to Monday? This game has got such great hallmarks. You think the Ravens would be where they are? You think the Chargers would be a bit behind where they are right now? These two teams are coming in at a very, very similar level, especially with Baltimore's loss last week. As you say, that they are great off a loss. It feels like we've said this quite a lot about them in the last 2-3 years. They build up, they play this brilliant football, and then they have this strange loss in them that always comes back to bite them. This will be a game where I think they will come back and show what they can do. The Chargers, they're playing well. They are playing well, but I don't think they are there yet. I think they're at least 2 years away from making something happen.
They shouldn't have won against Cincinnati. Yeah. Neither, obviously they were up by 3 scores. Then the Bengals came back in true Chargers fashion, and then in the fourth quarter they were punt. Neither team wanted to win the game, and then finally, I think the third attempt, the Chargers went down and had a drive thanks to those 2 catches from McConkey and that big J.K. Dobbins run. The Chargers a couple of years ago don't win that game, but I agree with you. I'm not ready to crown them yet because they've not played anyone difficult. Now this is obviously the toughest game of their season.
Yeah. This is this could be the game that is like, right, okay, they're here. Even so, I still don't think they've got enough come playoff time, if when they do make the playoffs, especially on offense. They're missing just a bit of quality. J.K. Dobbins is playing really well, and I think he'll have a really good game against this former team. I think on offense, when you have Ladd McConkey as your number one, and he as good as he's been, you need someone else to get to that upper echelon. That's where they'll get found out. Zay Flowers has taken that jump for the Ravens, and it's made them just that little bit more dynamic than they already were. That's been key for them. As you say, they're going to come off this lot. They're going to come off this loss from last week, bounce back, and yeah, I think this is the Ravens game, and I think they will cover it as well. It'll be close, but I think they will win by +4. So yeah.
I agree with you, mate. Okay, thank you for joining me for the podcast this week. Thank you to everyone at the Cheltenham Neptunes that I went and interviewed this week as well. Again, flag football, a really growing sport in the UK, and I really do hope that anyone looking forward to, or looking to try it out, does go down to their local team and tries it out, because it's a growing sport. You never know, you may even be in the Team GB team in 3.5 years' time. Okay, thank you very much, as I said, for Olly for joining me. I've been Sam. This has been the Full 10 Yards NFL Podcast, and I will see you next week, next Friday, where we will go and recap the Thanksgiving football and look ahead to week 13. It's that time of the year already. It's snowed this week in the UK, as I mentioned. It's colder than Kansas City and Buffalo right now. This is football heritage, and I cannot wait for the rest of the season. I've been Sam Moores, as I mentioned, 14 Yards NFL Podcast, and I will see you next time.